Well, hey there, Yinzers. This is WAP bringing you another episode of Yinzology, the study of everything Pittsburgh. So I am sporting my Pittsburgh River Monsters hoodie for a couple reasons. After watching the Pittsburgh Penguins lose to the Dallas Stars as Yinzers, we need to find ways not to think about the Pittsburgh Penguins not making it to the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. And so I've been following the River Monsters. They are the founding members of the American Premier Hockey League, also known as the Union Hockey League. UHL is a semi-pro Senior A hockey league out of Beaver Falls. I encourage you to check them out. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're in the area. Go check out a game and support a local hockey team. Another reason I am wearing this hoodie is that spring and summer are just around the corner, where you're going to start to see more boats and jet skis and people out on the rivers for recreation. And we need to remind Yinzers of the dangers that lurk beneath the waters. And that is the folklore, or is it folklore, of the river monster. That's right, the river monster. Yes, the river monster. The river creature, half human, half fish, half turtle, or half turtle, half human, that can come out of the waters and onto land and do whatever they do. There are British reports going all the way back to the French and Indian War. We're talking the 1700s, where there were encounters that the British encountered some sort of river creature. Oh, yes. Now, take that information, take that information and do what you want with it. Maybe there is something there. The stories revolve not so much around the Ohio River or the Allegheny, but the Monongahela. That is where the river creature seems to live. You've got about 180 miles of river. One of the few rivers that flow from the south to the north. So the river starts in West Virginia. And if you go to West Virginia, there are reports and stories of the river creature. And so the river makes its way up to Braddock, PA, where there are reports and stories of the river creature. The creature is sometimes referred to as the Monongy, named after the Monongahela River, which means falling banks, or the mud that falls or caves in. And it's a Unami language from the Lenape tribe. They called this creature the Monongy. Maybe the Indians were up to something. Maybe they were onto something, trying to scare the European settlers. Maybe they created this folklore to scare the Europeans away and say, hey, let's try to scare these guys away. Which wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe there's some truth to that, or maybe the Indians really did see this creature and wanted to warn the Europeans. And it's not this creature from the Black Lagoon, but this creature from the Black and Gold Lagoon. Oh yeah. My buddy Russ, for my bachelor party, he took us all on the boat, and he used to take us boating in the 80s too. If you've ever been on the rivers, back when you're younger, you think you're invincible. You couldn't pay me to get back into those waters. You got the oil slicks and beer cans, and you'd be like boating and you'd see this giant massive logs, and at first you're like, what is that? Is that a dead body? And then you realize, oh, that's a tree log. Like the water's so black and murky that your mind plays tricks and you start to see things and you're like, what was that? And if you go in the water, you have no idea what just brushed up against your leg. What was that? You're not even Mm-mm. No. And so these dark, muddy black waters, oh black water, ba ba ba, doobie doobie doo, the Doobie Brothers, come up with one of my own theories is that maybe there were a lot of Scottish that came around the after the French and Indian War, like General Washington and General Forbes was Scottish. Maybe, these Scottish lived in the Highlands where there was a lot of black water. They have a lot of Loch Ness, lochs, where, you've got the Loch Ness and old Nellie popped her head up around 1930. Well, maybe before all that, maybe the Scottish, you brought some of that folklore over and maybe they started the sea river creature stories. Perhaps it was old General Forbes himself. I don't know, but that's one of my theories. Another plausible explanation that's not, if you've ever watched, I think his name's Jeremy Wade, that show came out, it was called River Monsters. And after watching that show, a lot of people didn't realize a lot of these freshwater fish, they look like monsters. They can get pretty big. You talk to some Yinzer fishermen, they can catch some bass, some bluegill, some golden trout, some walleye, and then you've got the fatty, flatty catfish, right? The flat catfish. Maybe some of you are familiar with Hannah Barron, the catfish girl, and TikTok or Instagram. She goes underwater. A couple minutes later, she comes up with like a 40-pound catfish and she slings it on her shoulder. These flat catfish, 60, 70, 80, 90 pounds, and they look like they are ugly. And then one of the largest freshwater fish, the beluga sturgeon, somebody caught one of those out of the Detroit River. I think it was 250 pounds and like 6 feet long. You want to talk about a river monster? I'd be like, yeah, that's a river creature. Like that could look like half human, half fish. It was an ugly fish. Not to mention you've got the long nose and alligator gars. They don't look normal. They don't look like a normal fish. So could it be one of these monster fish that people, turned it into folklore? Perhaps. I don't know. Maybe. Not to mention it wasn't that long ago. I hate to say this, but it wasn't that long ago where we were a pretty big industrial polluted city that dumped just about everything into our rivers. And before the Renaissance, our rivers were basically glowing in the dark. So, could that have, created some weird looking fish? Yeah. Back in the early 2000s, they even had a swim race called the Search for the Monongy, and the swim race started at Heinz Field, and then the swimmers would have to go to the Roberto Clemente Bridge, and then swim back to Heinz Field. What you might think is a log or an Iron City beer can may not be what you think it is. Maybe think twice about getting into Le Mans, all right? And realize that there may just be a river monster out there. All right, and you've got to be careful. And this is a public service announcement. This is, we want you boaters and you swimmers, you tubers and you jet skiers, just think twice about getting in the Mon. Head over to the Ohio or the Allegheny. You'll be all right over there. Just think twice about the Mon. So comment below. Let us know whether or not you believe in the Monongahela River monster. Do you believe that it's out there? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I think there was a good chance. Back in the French and Indian War, back when there was wild country and it was pristine before all the Europeans came in and just uprooted everything. Who's to say there wasn't a prehistoric creature here or there, and maybe, just maybe, one of these creatures, lived in the water but could also come out and feed on things on land, and I don't know. Until next time, I'm Double AP, and I'm out.